to my channel, and today I am going to be doing a video on drum roll makeup brushes. Yes, makeup brushes. It's gonna be a long video. So I've had a lot of people ask me to do a video basically talking about the different types of makeup brushes. I know a lot of people who are just starting off doing makeup and they literally don't know where to start, which is very common because makeup brushes, you know, foundations, eyeshadows, you know, they're easy. But when it comes to makeup brushes, you really do have to know what each one does specifically. So I'm basically going to break that down in this video. I'm also going to share some tricks with you guys, some shortcuts with brushes. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please stay tuned because it really is going to be a long video. When I say I'm gonna cover as much as I can, and I really want this to be as detailed as possible. Yeah, so get your wine, get your popcorn, get your notepad, and get ready for this makeup lesson. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna start off with is where to get makeup brushes. You can honestly get makeup brushes literally at any cosmetic place. I personally would recommend to go somewhere that has the makeup brushes literally on display, like where the testers are, just simply because you can touch the brushes, you can see how dense they are, you can see how light they are, and you can even determine if you like the texture or not. Places like Sephora are good. I believe MAC does it as well. If you are kind of on a budget and want to do something a little bit more money friendly, definitely Crown Brush and Real Techniques and Morphe brushes. I hope I said that right. I know some people say Morph, I know some people say Morphe, but I definitely recommend those three, especially if you're starting off and you're not trying to spend too much on brushes. Those three brands are still really good quality brushes. They're online. Morphe, though, out in LA, here in LA, they do have a store. I'm not really sure if they have any other locations, but if you are in LA, they do have a store in Burbank. So Morphe, Real Techniques, and Crown Brush are money friendly and very, very good brushes, especially to start off with. So one major key that I want to point out, this is really, really important and important to understand as well. When it comes to makeup brushes, the density of the brush will determine the amount of coverage you will get in your makeup look, whether it's the eyeshadows or the foundation. If you are dealing with a light brush, depending on the bristles, it's gonna be hard to work with, especially like with eyeshadows. For foundations, you want to stick with dense brushes, dense thick brushes, because you will get a thicker foundation. If you use a lighter brush, like I said, it's a little bit more difficult to get the results that you want, and vice versa. I feel like I should start off with the easy brushes first. That's what I'm gonna do. Easy brushes first. The first brush I'm gonna start off with, I'm gonna actually break down the brushes for each application. So the first brush I'm gonna go over are angled brushes. And angled brushes are usually used for filling in eyebrows, whether you use a pomade, an eyebrow palette, or pencil. I usually use a pomade or an eyebrow palette. It is honestly up to you, whichever one you want to use. Now, remember, like I said before, the density of the brush will determine how much product you're able to pick up. These small angled brushes from Morphe and Anastasia are thick and dense, so they will be able to pick the pomade and the shadow from any eyebrow palette that you use very easily. If you are going to use a pomade, I would recommend to use an angled brush, but one that is probably just a little bit thinner towards the end. This is a little bit more thick, so this would work really well with any eyebrow palette. And it will work with a pomade, but it does depend too on how much coverage you're putting on the eyebrows. So when using these, you would use this side for the eyebrow palette shadow or the pomade. Now, what I like about these is that these have the spoolies at the end. These are used to brush out the eyebrows before and after the application. Some people like to brush the front when filling in to make it look more natural. That is completely optional. I usually will just brush it before I apply my pomade or shadow, and I will brush it in the direction of how the hair grows. So I usually start in the front like this, and then I start in the middle, and then I go down because the tail of the eyebrow is at an angle. So you're literally going to be following the direction of the hairs. Same thing when applying the pomade or whatever shadow you're going to use. You will be going up like 1, 2, 3 stroke method. Middle, filling in the middle if you have to, and then you would go down at an angle, but you would be slanting the brush like this. So up 1, 2, 3, filling in the middle, and then down at an angle like this. So again, this side is for filling in eyebrows, and then this is to brush the eyebrow hairs. Now, angled brushes you can actually use for eyeliner as well. If you don't have a small liner brush, you can use an angled brush to line underneath your lower lash line. Next, I'm gonna go over concealer brushes. Concealer brushes honestly come in many different sizes and shapes. I usually like to use the usual round oval brushes. I usually use these when cleaning up my eyebrows, and the reason why I like to use these is because these get really into my arch. If you have a client that has an arch, I would recommend to use a concealer brush that is a little bit round because, like I said, it gets deep within the arch, so it's easy to get that precise look underneath the brow bone. I do also use these to drag concealer as a highlight underneath my eyes. You can use these as for contour as well, or if a client has blemishes, you can use this to apply concealer as well. Next are square brushes, which are typically used for concealer as well. These are dense as well. Same with these. Again, with concealer brushes, because it's a thick product, you want to make sure the brush that you're using, even if it's big or small, you want to make sure the brushes are dense so that it holds the product better and it's easy to work with. Square brushes, people usually use these again for eyebrows, to underneath the eyebrow and above to clean. I feel like it's okay to use for above the eyebrow. I will usually switch to this for the top of the eyebrow because it is a straight line and it's easier direction wise to use a square brush versus the round one. You can also use these to apply concealer underneath your eyes. You can use it to apply the contour. Honestly, it's pretty basic. Basically only really for concealer. I will say if you do want to do a little bit of cleanup underneath the lower lash line, you could definitely use these as well, and you can even use these around the lip as well. If you're cleaning around the lip, these are good to use as well. Now these are my favorite. These are, I guess you would say, square round brushes. These have bristles. They are kind of dense, but they're not, they're stipply almost. They're thick, stipply brushes. And I like to use these to blend out any base that I'm using for my eyeshadow, whether it's a primer, a base, or a concealer. And the reason why I like to use these is because of the bristles. It helps blend out anything very, very well. If you're going to use concealer on top of the eyebrow, these are good to use for blending out as well. You can use these to apply concealer underneath the eye as well, and same with contour. So if you don't have concealer brushes, but you're able to find a brush similar to this, again with bristles like this, like flat bristles, you can use these as well for that. Okay, so next I'm gonna go over lip brushes. Lip brushes I feel like are very basic. They're just small and oval, sometimes round. Some do have a point, which is good for clients that have a widow's peak as far as their lips, or if they have really sharp corners. These are good to be able to get the lip gloss or the lipstick into. You can use these for lipsticks, lip glosses, any lip palette. One trick, I do actually like to use the small ones that are a little bit more round, actually for concealer. And the reason being is because they're small, and if you don't have a concealer brush, even though these are kind of made for lips, you could still use these for concealer. And sometimes I will actually use a lip brush that has a point to it, just simply because I can get into the inner corner of either myself or my client, and it just makes it easier application wise. I do like to also use these for color correction, just because with color correction you're not using a lot of product, and with a small brush like this you'll be able to have more control application wise. So, you know, again, this can be used for either lips or concealer and color correction. Okay, so next are liner brushes, which I feel like are pretty basic. They're just small, tiny brushes like these. You could use these for lip liner or trying to perfect a lip liner. I don't usually use these brushes for that. I mostly use these to apply eyeliner on the lower lash line, just because of sanitation reasons. And if you don't want to use a pencil, if you're using a pomade, these are good brushes to use for that. Okay, eyeshadow brushes, super, super, super important. Like I said earlier, the denser the brush, the more product you'll be able to pick up and the more coverage you will get. These two are eyeshadow brushes. One is a little bit more oval and the other one is a little bit more round, but these two are super dense. When I turn it to the side, you can see how thick they are, and that's what you want to look for when getting eyeshadow brushes. You want to make sure they are this thick, just simply because, like I said in the beginning, it will be able to pick up more product and it will be able to hold the product better, and you'll be able to apply it way more easily versus going back and forth 5 times. Especially when you're doing a smoky eye, these are very, very crucial. When you're doing a smoky eye, I feel like you have to use a dense brush like these so that you can get that intensity. If you're doing a more natural look, you can use these softer brushes. These are a little bit more softer. They're eyeshadow brushes as well. This one's a little bit more oval and this one is more round. This one I feel like is really good to apply eyeshadow on your lower lash line. So you literally, because it's very thin at the edge, you can easily get right underneath your lower lash line like this, and you would just do a one motion like that. Now what I like about this brush as well, if you don't have a brush like this, you can use a small brush like this. This is a very tiny eyeshadow brush, but it's pointy. So you can easily get right underneath, especially like in the corners, if you want to apply eyeshadow underneath your lower lash line. Now, if you're doing a light natural look, you could use a lighter brush like this for eyeshadow on the lid. I actually like to use this to apply my highlight just because, like I said, it doesn't pick up a lot of product and it definitely helps me get into the crease, well, the corner of my eyebrow, because it does have a slight point, so it doesn't pick up a lot of product, which is what I want when I apply my highlight underneath my brow bone. So if you could also use this one as well, but it does depend too on the type of arch that you have. So if you have a bit of a higher arch, I would recommend using a small brush that has a bit of a point. If you have more of a rounder arch, this will work better for that. So again, you can use these two for eyeshadow. You can use this one as a highlight. If you don't have this, you can use that. And then you can use both this side and this type of a brush to apply eyeshadow on your lower lash line. Okay, y'all. Blending brushes. You can use brushes like these. These are a little bit more round. These are crease brushes, but because they have the bristles, they're made for blending. So if you have a little bit of a harsh line, or if you're trying to blend your transition color with your highlight or your transition color with the color on your lid, these are really good to use. Now, these two blending brushes are more round, and again, these have bristles as well, pointy bristles, so they blend very easily. When it comes to smoky eyes, I'm the type, I like mine a little bit more soft and more round. I don't really like mine super harsh in the outer corner, so I definitely would recommend to use a round blending brush for that. If you are the type that likes that sharpness, I'm about to show you the brushes for that. But if you don't have a round brush like this one, I would say most likely a blending brush like this one would work in the outer corner. Also too, when it comes to smoky eye, if you like to use the tape, I definitely feel like this would work better just because it is cornered. It's sharp at the edge. So if you have tape at the outer corner of your eye, it literally will follow the line of the tape because it's pointing. I feel like when you use a round one or something like this, it'll make it a little bit more difficult. I feel like you would have more control with a pointy crease brush if you're gonna do the outer corner smoky when using tape. Now that's if you want that precise line, but like I said, if you want kind of a more roundish outer smoky eye, a round brush will work just as well. Okay guys, crease brushes. I have so many crease brushes, I honestly don't even know where to begin. Yeah, this is just the beginning. Okay, so these are crease brushes. These are dense and small crease brushes. I like to use the small ones. These have a little bit of a point, but I do like to use these. If you do not have a small eyeshadow brush like this, you can use a small crease brush to apply shadow underneath your lower lash line, especially if you're doing a smoky eye. These are really good to either apply shadow or to blend shadows together. I do also like to use these as highlights underneath my brow bone because they do have a bit of a point, so it gets into my arch very, very well. So again, if you don't have that small tiny eyeshadow brush, you can use a small pointed crease brush. So these are pointed crease brushes, medium. These are a little bit more denser. These work well if you have a little bit of a harsh line. Because they are dense, they'll be able to blend out anything that you're not really able to get. So if you don't have a round crease brush like this with the bristles, you can use a dense crease brush like this one. All right, the most important crease brushes. These are called crease brushes for a reason, and this is only like a quarter of what I have. But these, like I said, they are called crease brushes for a reason. They are a little bit loose, but they have that bit of a point to it. And the reason why they have that point is so that it can get specifically inside your crease. So if you are blending out your eyeshadow color on your lid, using this works really, really well. You would basically start right here and then just blend upwards. If you are not going to be using a transition color, you would just keep blending up. Now, I usually use these for my transition colors. I will apply it in the middle and then just continue to blend upwards. Like I said, once you feel the point in your crease, you just go in a back and forth motion and just start blending either your transition color with your highlight or your transition color with the color that you used on your lid. So I definitely feel like you have to invest in these just simply because these are what you have to use to blend your colors with. So this is definitely not a brush that I can share a shortcut with. This is an absolute must in your kit. So again, look for crease brushes that have the point, because like I said, you want it to fit inside your crease. When it fits inside your crease, that's when you will start the blending. Okay, so two brushes I really want to talk about with you guys, which are my absolutely favorite. This one is a round blending brush. It's a little bit dense, and I love this one just simply because when I say this will blend literally everything, this brush is from Real Techniques. When I say this is like the queen of blending, like, yeah. So if you are having a little bit trouble, or if you want to absolutely make sure everything is blended right, use this brush. You would start where your highlight is and your transition and just go kind of like in a back and forth. I feel like it's kind of better just to kind of tap it, just so that you don't really start smearing and rubbing everything all together. Honestly, the point is to make sure it's blended 100%. So honestly, start tapping it in, and don't even go back and forth in a tapping motion. Honestly, just do one direction like this. If you want to make sure your color on your eyelid and your transition color are blended completely, honestly, just go inside of the crease area and just do it in a patting motion. Okay, so this is my favorite fluffy brush. It's a crease brush. It's a pointed fluffy crease brush. I love to use this to set whatever base or concealer or primer that I'm using on my eyes for my eyeshadows. I usually will take, after I apply any base that I'm using, I will take a nude eyeshadow and just apply it all over my lid to basically set everything. Anytime you are using something cream or liquid or wet, you want to set that with something dry, especially with your eyes. So I usually will use this type of a brush. If you don't have a beauty blender or if you don't have a sponge, you can use a fluffy brush like this. But again, make sure it's fluffy and the bristles come out. Even though it's light, it holds the product and it gives a very light, natural coverage. It's not going to go on, whatever I use to set it, it will not go on super heavy. So again, if you don't have a sponge or a beauty blender, you can use this type of a brush to set any eyeshadow base that you're going to use. Okay, so this one is my other favorite fluffy brush. This one is from Real Techniques, and I like to use this for setting my concealer underneath my eyes. I use this to apply translucent powder underneath my eyes, my forehead, my chin. I like using this one just because it does have a slight point, so it gets into the inner corner exactly how I need it to be. So if you don't have a beauty blender to pick up translucent powder or whatever type of powder you're going to use to set your concealer, you can use this. If you don't have a beauty blender, if you don't have a sponge, you can use a brush like this. So again, this is from Real Techniques, and I definitely recommend to pick this one up. Okay guys, foundation brushes. These are flat oval brushes. These a lot of people use for liquid foundation. I actually like to use these for anything that I use to prep the skin, whether it's a primer or lotion or any type of prep that you're going to use. I don't really use it for liquid foundations just simply because sometimes it can cause streaking. So I feel like these would just fit better if you're going to be prepping the skin. Alright y'all, more foundation brushes. So again, like I said in the beginning, the denser the brush, the more coverage you will get. If you want a absolutely 100% full coverage look, you will want a dense brush like this. These are round, dense brushes. This is a pointy one, but as you can see, the bristles barely move. And that is exactly what you want when applying liquid foundation. If you do not have these, you can use a flat top one, but make sure that one is dense as well. You will still get the same amount of full coverage using that one. This one I do like to use sometimes with concealer because, like I said, it has the point. So it can get into the inner corner of my eye or even my client's eyes very well. So this one is from Real Techniques, which is my absolutely favorite. This one is from Morphe, and this one is from Besto. But again, when looking for that full coverage look, and you're using liquid foundation, be sure to get round top, fully dense brushes or flat top brushes. Now, if you want a lighter coverage or not too heavy, stippling brushes work best for that. Just simply because the brushes kind of go everywhere and it's not going to give you that full coverage look. This one is from Real Techniques. You can actually use this for contouring as well. If you're going to be applying the contour and then blending up. Because of the bristles, they help as well for blending. So if you want a little bit lighter coverage, a stippling brush like this works well for that. All right, y'all. Pattern brushes. Just as important. So, like I said in the beginning, the denser the brush, the more coverage you will get. So if you are going to be using a liquid foundation, pretty much any foundation you use, you have to set it with a powder. And if you want more coverage, these brushes are the ones to use. This one is like my absolute favorite. If I don't use this one, I would definitely use this one. This one is a little bit more round, but this is a dense round powder brush. This one is a little bit more flat, but both give amazing coverage when applying face powder to the face after your foundations. Now, if you don't want to wear foundation, but you still kind of want a full coverage look with a face powder or a powder foundation, you can use these. These will definitely give a full coverage look even without foundation. So again, be sure to get these when you go shopping so that you can complete your makeup look. So if you are the type that doesn't like to wear foundation, but you kind of still want a coverage look, but a very light look, like a light everyday makeup look and very light coverage, these brushes are good for that. These are round brushes, but they're very light. Very light, so they will pick up the product, but you will have more control as far as how much coverage you want. With this one, because it's so dense, it's going to give you full coverage no matter what. But like I said, if you want something a little bit lighter and not as much, round, fluffy brushes like these are good to use for either powder foundations or just to even everyday powder look. So pick these up as well if you're more of the natural makeup type of person. So this one is also a really good face powder to use. This one is from Real Techniques. This one is very fluffy. So again, if you want a natural look, this one is a good brush to use. So if you are not able to find a brush like this one is from Real Techniques. Okay, so one brush I do want to talk about. This one is a large stippling brush. This one I like to actually use to remove my translucent powder. So once I have my translucent powder setting, once I'm ready to wipe it away, I'm gonna actually show you another brush you can use, but this one I feel like is more ideal just because of the bristles are stippled. And so it really gets in and sweeps away. So one trick I do have and kind of recommend, fold it like this. And you can start at the corner where your inner corner is and just sweep it away like this. Now, if you are not able to find a brush like this, you can use one of the loose powder brushes that I showed before. remember, a light one, not a dense one. You want a light one. This one, because it is light, it will pick up the product off. So again, if you don't have a stippling one like this, a loose powder brush like this will work as well. So with this one, you would do the same thing. You would pinch it, start in the inner corner where the edge is, and just sweep the loose powder away like that. So this one, I think I got at a makeup show with some type of collection, but I do believe Morphe has this. So this one you could actually use for a face powder as well, but I actually like to use this to remove my translucent powder underneath my eyes. Blush brushes. I feel like for blush brushes, most of them are pretty round. They are a little bit looser, and some are dense. This one is a little bit dense. I feel like with blush, it should be very natural as possible. So you don't want to use a heavy brush. This one, I feel like fits if you have round cheeks because it is round. I'm the type, I actually don't like blush. I know that sounds really, really weird. I actually like my blush, if I do wear it, I like it kind of angled, like on top of, well, not on top, but like above my contour. So how I would apply my blush would literally be just like a patting motion like this. And that's pretty much how you would apply any blush. This one is a little bit more pointy. This one I feel like you can use for powder, face powder and blush. This one I feel like works well with like what they call apples of the cheeks. So you can use this type of a brush for that. This one is a little bit more oval, but you can still use it in this one though. You wouldn't use the sides. I feel like this one you would kind of have to actually like face directly onto your cheek. But like I said, these blush brushes kind of come in all different shapes, so make sure it's just kind of round at the top and it's light, not dense, just so that you get that light look when applying blush. Okay guys, angled brushes. I usually use these for both contour and blush, just simply because I feel like these give just a very light look when it comes to contour and blush, which I feel like it should be light. I feel like they shouldn't look heavy on the face, so I like to use these for that. This one is, the bristles are a little bit different. This one is actually a little bit more fluffier than this one. Each one will work exactly how it looks. So these two I feel like are definitely crucial for your kids. So if you're in the store, make sure you get one that's a little bit more fluffy and round like this one for your blush. And then this one is a little bit more dense, a little bit more skinnier, I'm gonna say a little bit more skinnier. And again, I like to use these just because I feel like I have better control applying contour and blush. Alright guys, fan brushes, which apply highlight, which I feel like is everybody's favorite part of a makeup application. Reason why I suggest these is because of the bristles, and usually with highlights they have a bit of a shimmer or a glitter or a glow iridescent on it. These bristles will be able to hold that and make it easy to apply on your cheekbone. Other brushes I feel like won't give you that effect, so because these are stipply, they will hold the product well and you'll be able to apply as much highlight as you want. Me in particular, I like more control with my highlight, so I actually like to use a highlighter brush like this one. I honestly don't know how to describe this one. It is a highlighter brush, but I feel like for me, I prefer to use this because I feel like I have more control. Typically with the fan brush, you can kind of move it everywhere. With this one, I feel like I have more control. But that's just basically me. If you're different, if you like more of a dramatic highlight, a fan brush will work just as well. So if you can't find this in the store, get a fan brush. If you can't find a fan brush, get this one. Okay, so I feel like I covered everything. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, especially for those who are just starting to do makeup. I know it was a lot and probably a little bit overwhelming, but the more you study, the more you'll get a hang of it. I hope you guys all enjoyed. If I did forget anything, leave your questions in your comments down below and I will get back to y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.